When I was new on the path, back in the late 1970s, early 1980s, I made it a point to study everything I could get my hands on of Yogananda's teachings and Swami Kriyananda's writings. And that was a practice that has served me well over the years as I've continued to basically try to read and understand everything I could reasonably get a hold of and tune into. And I wanted to just touch on there's a reason why it's a good idea to study the teachings of the Master and to sort of be a bit exclusive in the beginning. And it is not narrowness or ignorance of other realities or other truth. It's that in the beginning particularly, we need to learn to focus. We need to learn to absorb and find out what have we actually taken on, what direction are we going, what has the Master himself given to the world so that we know what to serve, we know how to contribute. And so I made a study of Master's teachings. And one of the points that he makes in there, and it's one of dozens that can sail by very easily because there are dozens and because they're all relevant to some degree. He makes various suggestions of things to do in a day, in any given day. And just as an example, it's important to laugh. It's important, and Swamiji even, he may have even written a small piece on this. Certainly he talked about it several times in my hearing, once in a very unusual way to me. He, out of the blue, years after I had lived in Italy, he said something to me in Italian, and what he said to me translates to, true laughter comes from the heart. In other words, you can make a laugh out of your face, your mouth, and you can sort of go, hey, 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 hey. And it's not a laugh. It's a mockery of a laugh in a sense. But some people are only capable of that. It's like their laughter doesn't engage the heart. It doesn't actually touch the heart. It doesn't open. The heart doesn't open up. When the heart opens up, you can laugh so hard. And I remember watching Swamiji, and I certainly know in my own experience, I have laughed so hard that the tears ran down my face. I've discovered that there are these little muscles in the back of your head that get sore, that get exercised when you laugh really hard. So, and they would actually get sore. They would begin to hurt when I would laugh so hard that the tears were running down my face. I discovered those muscles. I mean, who knew? You've got muscles in the back of your head. It's probably a better thing than having muscles inside your head. But anyway, I say that about laughter because that's just one of many things that Master recommended doing. And so Swami Kriyananda kept a book of P.G. Wodehouse around. He was always reading something of P.G. Wodehouse because, one, he's such an amazing writer, but two, his sense of humor is very kindly and very genuine, and he just had a sort of affectionate view of humanity and of the world. And a very sweet, kind of uplifted view of humanity. Wodehouse once remarked that when he left this world, the world would be one message short. In other words, he would not be leaving some, important epitaph message as his final word to the humanity. He didn't have any of that. He had no message to offer humanity. And Swamiji said, but the interesting thing is that his whole life was a message. Everything that he wrote was that message. So of course humanity had a beautiful message through his life. He just didn't need to leave it in the form of a quirky epitaph on his tombstone at the end. But anyway, I digressed a little bit there in the humor direction. What Master was also saying, another little suggestion that Master made was read a reliable health periodical. Now, you can go a lot of directions with that, and I'm not going to recommend a reliable health periodical. I think there are many of them out there. He obviously didn't specify one. He just said read a reliable health periodical. Now, you might wonder, why would he do that? And I can suggest a few reasons why. One of them being that he knew, this being Dwapara Yuga, that our understanding of the body, our understanding of the mechanism or the way energy moves through the body, the importance of energy moving through the body at all, would become more and more pronounced as Dwapara Yuga went along. He also knew that energy itself would turn into a healing modality, that we would understand that the movement of energy is part of our healing, a crucial part of our healing, of our health or our disease or our lack of health, etc. And those elements, you might think, well, he gave lots of suggestions around health, and very interesting and very far-reaching, very with great foresight he gave these. And you might think, well, so that's enough for us, right? But it wasn't enough, because he knew that more would come, and it wasn't his mission to give us endless guidance about living in the body, when in fact his real mission was to teach us to be one with God. But meanwhile, having a healthy body makes a big difference in living a God-oriented, God-centered life. And so, hence, read a reliable health periodical. And in general, Master recommended that we study a wide variety of areas of life. And I myself have made a study of dozens of areas. I'm interested in interstellar space, particle physics. I made a study of a fascinating book called A Pattern Language, which is a study of the tried and proven methods of building all around the world, sort of the ways that things actually work, not the fancy, fashionable architectural themes that come up, that stylize, the building world, but the actual sort of down to earth. If you look around the world, everybody gravitates toward that thing or that way or that look and feel, and the variety is enormous, but the concepts are it's very obvious when you read it and study it. It's fascinating to see, you just sort of know, that really does work. And they graded their assessments by on 3 different levels. It was, we know this works and you have to do it if you're going to have a successful building. We think this works, and some flavor of it seems important, and this one could be helpful. Those 3 levels. But it went all the way from the creation of a town and larger areas in between towns, all the way down to little tiny fixtures in a house, and everything in between. And it's sort of working from the outside in, all the way down to little tiny fixtures, positions of windows, whether something should face east or not, etc. That's, lots of range of examples. It was fascinating. I was in the building trades for many years, so it was sort of a natural. I helped create communities and worked with housing on 3 continents. And it's just gave me a helpful perspective. I say all of this because, particularly in these days, when many of us are more quarantined or, sort of a little more on our own, a little bit less out in public, some much more so and others less so, we have the possibility of doing more studying. And it's really helpful to study. It's really helpful to be passionate about study. And it's helpful to start with Master's teachings, but it's also helpful to sort of follow out any reasonable, any interesting, any intriguing and uplifting areas of study, because they teach us about God's world. They teach us how we can share, how we can live, how we can interact with others on an uplifting level. And so I will just finish by asking you the question, what do you study? Because all of us study something. It's just that if all we do is sort of take it in, watching a movie is not really the same thing as studying. You can go on the internet and study videos, and that can be helpful, a helpful way to learn, certainly. But all of us can study something that will uplift us and in turn others. So I will ask again, what do you study?